Prince Harry and Meghan Markle say that they are distressed, the poor puppets, by what they brand attack in Vanity Fair magazine.
Sooner or later, everybody turns on them. Just all they need is exposure. All they need is time.
Bully people in a very unpleasant way over here.
You know, things have truly fallen apart when the very people who helped build your image start tearing it down like a headline-hungry tabloid. Once celebrated in Hollywood as a story of royal renewal, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have become the punchline of their own once charming narrative. Even Vanity Fair, a magazine that once treated them with admiration, has turned sharply critical. This is the same glossy outlet that previously framed figures like Megyn Kelly and Piers Morgan as a polished power pairing. Now it's clear the gloves are off. The goodwill campaign has ended, and the applause has faded. Harry, once viewed as the daring prince who broke tradition, now comes across as someone permanently assigned to managing Meghan's emotional crises. Meghan, who presents herself as a devoted humanitarian, is increasingly portrayed as someone who uses staff as background characters in her personal struggles, while repeatedly insisting the world refuses to understand her.
Vanity Fair has turned on them. Bullied almost all of her staff out of the job. What a horrid nightmare she was to work with. From England to get away from the scrutiny of the press, supposedly, and all they do is try to get in the press in the United States.
They no longer resemble a royal couple in any meaningful sense. What remains is a two-person publicity operation built on grievance, self-pity, and self-importance, with every public appearance or interview, popular talking points outweigh basic facts. And when criticism comes from Vanity Fair, a pillar of elite media, it stops being rumor or chatter. Being labeled dishonest and hypocritical at that level isn't gossip. It's a public farewell to the image they once worked so hard to protect. Megyn Kelly says this collapse was always inevitable, and it's hard to fault Piers Morgan for reacting with open satisfaction. The same media voices that once shielded them and rushed to their defense are no longer playing the role of protective caretakers. The illusion has faded, and many people now see what they believe was hidden all along. And if this moment feels harsh, brace yourself. The fallout isn't finished yet. The next break is coming from a place they never expected, and that's what could sting the most. It started as a quiet whisper in stylish media circles.
Someone is saying they are the most entitled, disingenuous people on the planet. Several others describe taking extended breaks from work to escape scrutiny, meaning from her, exiting their job or undergoing long-term therapy after working with Meghan.
Now it has grown into a steady roar echoing across headlines everywhere. People are asking a simple but uncomfortable question. Did Meghan and Harry create their own turmoil? Or were they truly the victims they claimed to be? The recent Vanity Fair piece wasn't an isolated critique. It was part of a broader reassessment that has unraveled their entire public storyline. For years, the pair carefully shaped an image built on kindness, approachability, and a bold stand against what they framed as an overbearing royal system. That version of events once captivated audiences. Now, those close to the situation are offering a far less flattering account. Behind the carefully polished image of empathy, insiders describe an environment marked by privilege, misleading behavior, and emotional pressure. Some former staff members reportedly took extended time away from work simply to avoid scrutiny, echoing patterns of sudden exits and long recovery periods after working closely with Meghan. New claims suggest people didn't just move on, they rushed to get out. Sources say that beneath the emotional Netflix confessions, what once looked like courage now appears more strategic. The couple is portrayed as highly focused on image, shaping stories of hardship to draw public sympathy while carefully maneuvering media attention.
No one cared about their podcast series. Nobody cared about the polo series recently. Nobody cared about any of it. All they want to hear is the dirt. And these two, for 5 years, have reveled and wallowed in royal dirt for vast amounts of money.
Meghan presented herself as fragile, while, according to reports, expecting unwavering loyalty. Harry, meanwhile, seemed to absorb and reflect that same frustration. Vanity Fair offered its assessment without softening the language when describing a prince who exchanged tradition for applause. The tone was precise and unsparing, pointing to exhaustion, mistrust, and a growing sense of fatigue with the act. The message was clear. Many people feel worn out by what they see as emotional pressure from a pair who appear warm on the surface but leave damage in their wake. Many people have long suspected she's difficult to work with, and stories about her demanding behavior have circulated for years. Now, if the media really has stopped protecting Meghan and Harry, they may be facing something entirely new, real consequences. And let's be honest, the public isn't clueless. Audiences have watched this storyline unfold before, and they're nearing the point where they no longer want to play supporting roles in Meghan and Harry's ongoing drama. As people scroll past the latest headlines, those who once flooded social media with heart emojis and supportive hashtags are now responding with tired eye rolls. The reason is simple. The moral speeches feel repetitive, the emotional moments seem carefully staged, and the overall presentation comes across as artificial. People can sense when something doesn't ring true. Right now, the Sussex brand carries that impression. This pushback isn't just about royal fatigue. It runs deeper than that. It's an emotional revolt. Viewers are worn down by the image of wealthy figures presenting themselves as victims while turning sympathy into profit. Many feel upset because they once genuinely cared. Watching Meghan cry on Oprah's couch or listening to Harry describe life inside the palace stirred real compassion. But after years of documentaries,
Ask any senior member of the royal family who has invaded your privacy the worst. It's Prince Harry. It's the guy who gave the inside track for money to Oprah, to Netflix, to publishers, to anyone who would pay top dollar. This guy invaded the privacy of his family.
podcasts, and tightly managed sympathy campaigns, it now resembles a polished Hollywood project with empathy as its selling point. That's exactly why commentators like Piers and Megyn Kelly resonate with certain audiences. They point out what others hesitate to say. A podcast that failed to connect. A polo series that barely registered. One project after another fading without impact. At this stage, none of it seems to move the needle anymore, and people have noticed. They tap into a frustration that's been quietly building for a long time. People have been waiting for someone to finally say what many were already thinking. Honesty was never the engine behind this so-called royal rebellion. Control was. In a twist of irony, media sympathy is what helped Meghan and Harry rise in the first place. Now, that same media attention has turned against them. Because once an audience starts seeing you as someone pulling strings instead of someone being hurt, no amount of careful Netflix editing can repair the damage. For years, Meghan Markle treated Vanity Fair like a polished reflection, a place to display the version of herself she wanted the world to admire. Sharp, self-made, and unstoppable. This time, the reflection cracked. The latest Vanity Fair piece offered no praise. It read more like a final examination. Every sentence carried the sting of disappointment. The wording was sharp and deliberate, describing behavior seen as exhausting, controlling, and difficult behind the scenes. This wasn't just criticism of choices or mistakes. It felt like a publication quietly admitting, "We're done playing along." The legend surrounding Meghan's brand fractured in full view. The language wasn't forward-looking anymore. Even longtime supporters began writing about her as if the peak had already passed. And the impact reached Harry just as hard. By trailing every carefully planned public move, he appeared less like an independent figure and more like someone lost in the performance. Why? Vanity Fair openly questioned his judgment and his sense of direction, leaving little doubt about the message underneath. The fairy tale, they suggested, was never real. What we're watching now is a slow unraveling fueled by fame, pride, and misplaced confidence. Hollywood spectacle colliding with unchecked ego, one headline at a time. Despite quiet efforts by the Sussex team to explain and soften the situation behind closed doors, the harm was already locked in. When Vanity Fair, a longtime judge of celebrity relevance, signals that a public figure is no longer sellable, that isn't ordinary pushback, it's exile. The impact grew even harsher when commentators like Megyn Kelly and Piers moved quickly, catching the self-styled royal outsiders unprepared and turning the magazine's report into a televised dismantling. Behind the polished headlines, there has long been another story, one marked by worn-down staff, low morale, and tightly sealed agreements. Well before Vanity Fair took a hard look, warnings were already circulating through palace hallways. Employees didn't simply resign. Many disappeared without explanation. Former aides described a tense environment where a single misstep could spark days of turmoil. Some insiders even joked darkly about a so-called Sussex Survivors Club. According to palace sources, Meghan was viewed as intensely driven and demanding, quick to correct disagreement, and firm in expecting absolute allegiance. Ordinary discussions reportedly stretched into draining interrogations. One assistant later shared that she would sit in her car and cry before work, anxious about what the day might bring. These accounts didn't come from outsiders. They came from people once tasked with protecting the couple's public image. Harry, meanwhile, seemed caught in a fog, torn between standing by his wife and watching long-standing royal ties collapse. Those who tried to reason with him said he had already chosen his position, cutting off anyone who challenged Meghan's version of events. The palace, once known for restraint and discretion, became a place of leaks and counterclaims. Complaints were brushed aside as confusion or cultural clashes. Yet behind those explanations, real damage lingered. Careers were derailed, reputations suffered. People were left emotionally bruised, and while the couple spoke often about compassion and understanding, those closest to them were quietly struggling just to endure the reality behind the image. No matter what they attempt now, the reaction is the same: indifference. There was a time when Prince Harry was the world's favorite rule breaker, the mischievous royal, the soldier, the restless spirit with fire in his eyes. Somewhere between palace walls and luxury homes in California, that version of him faded away. What remains is a prince who feels like a visitor in his own life, tied to a world he helped create but no longer seems to lead. Every appearance feels carefully arranged. Every grin looks rehearsed, like someone trying to remember the original purpose behind a fight that has long since lost its meaning. People close to Harry say this shift isn't just sad, it's painful to watch. In chasing independence, he walked away from duty, only to find himself bound by a different kind of restraint: constant image control. The man who once mocked the press now relies on its approval. Each interview and documentary plays less like storytelling and more like public confession, offered to an audience that no longer reacts with sympathy. Defiance used to make him stand out. Now it feels expected. The anger no longer shocks, and the message no longer carries weight. When Harry accuses the media of cruelty, many viewers respond with skepticism. The irony is hard to miss. He once demanded privacy, then packaged it for global release. Megyn Kelly calls him the lost prince of California. Piers paints him as the most expensive yes man on the planet. Both views may sting, but the hardest truth is simpler. Harry seems unable to recognize who he was before Megyn reshaped his public identity. When Megyn Kelly and Piers Morgan step into the spotlight together, subtlety disappears. This time, they didn't just joke, they went straight for the core. Kelly's sharp analysis cut through Megyn's carefully crafted image, questioning the contradictions, condemning media attention while inviting more cameras, calling for compassion while facing reports of pressure behind the scenes. The Sussex brand unraveled on live television, statement by statement, without relying on rumor. Then came Morgan, less precise and far more forceful. He had criticized Megyn for years, but now his arguments carried fresh fuel. With Vanity Fair echoing similar concerns, his long-running claims felt newly validated. He mocked Harry's self-pity, Megyn's endless interviews, and the familiar lines that spread fast online. His clips raced across social platforms, feeding a growing mood. Together, Kelly and Morgan created a perfect collision. Sharp credibility meeting raw outrage. It wasn't just commentary, it was release. Millions who had grown tired of the royal sadness cycle finally felt their frustrations spoken out loud. As their segments spread, one reality became clear. Meghan and Harry weren't just losing control of their narrative, they were losing their audience. Saresihi. The clearest evidence wasn't in headlines or broadcasts. It was in the comment sections, where defenders once rushed in instantly. Silence, or skepticism, now takes their place. The shift is real, and it's moving fast. Irony, cynicism, and fatigue now define the moment. One comment, reportedly pulled from a Vanity Fair discussion, captured it perfectly. The prince and the actress have become local villains in Montecito. We wanted to believe, but they turned into everything they claimed to oppose. That single line sums up the cultural shift. What looks like disappointment on the surface feels more like betrayal underneath. This reaction isn't random noise, it's emotional pushback. People who once defended the Oprah interview are now openly mocking the contradictions. Each speech about being real feels like a performance. Every call for compassion sounds like branding. Many feel tricked. After offering genuine empathy, they believe they were handed a marketing campaign instead. As hashtags like Sussex fatigue and hypocrisy tour spread for all the wrong reasons, online spaces that once cheered them on have turned into open battlegrounds. Division has become part of the storyline. Critics argue Megyn avoids accountability through familiar strategies, while supporters fire back with accusations of prejudice. Fueled by instant reactions and online tribalism, the Sussex saga continues to spread rapidly. But silence now speaks louder than commentary. Megyn Kelly and Piers Morgan no longer need to lead the charge. The crowd has taken over. For a couple that once aimed to dominate Hollywood, the lesson is sharp. Fame without goodwill is an empty throne. When the public starts seeing you as an act instead of a person, every apology sounds rehearsed, and every setback feels like overdue payback. Even the industry has gone quiet. Celebrities who once praised their boldness have stopped talking. Front row seats have disappeared. Public shoutouts are a thing of the past. Behind the scenes, aligning with the Sussexes is increasingly viewed as risky. Too much drama, too little upside. The shine has been replaced with static. Sources in Los Angeles suggest studios are worn out. The Spotify partnership collapsed. Agencies are reportedly hesitant to attach their names to the controversy, and Netflix is said to be reconsidering future plans. Award show producers, once eager to spotlight the couple, now lean towards safer choices. Hollywood rarely announces rejection out loud. It simply stops calling. Somewhere, their phones are full of messages that will never get replies. The irony is striking. Megyn once envisioned an empire built on magazine covers, brand deals, and red carpets. But Hollywood's affection comes with conditions, consistency being one of them. An endless story of grievance doesn't sell in a city obsessed with reinvention. As Piers bluntly put it while explaining Megyn Kelly's jab, Hollywood doesn't run on pity, it runs on profit. When even Hollywood loses interest, the message is clear. The applause is gone, the lights have shifted, and this time, no interview can restart the show. The royal rebellion that turned into episodic entertainment is nearing its final chapter. Meghan and Harry promised honesty, compassion, and personal growth. What followed instead felt like a never-ending drama, with each chapter sounding more strained than the last. Vanity Fair may have struck the first match, but voices like Megyn Kelly, Piers, and millions of frustrated viewers have turned it into a full cultural blaze. Empathy hasn't disappeared. It's just been replaced by spectators watching from the sidelines. And just when it seems like every twist has already played out, the story shifts again. As the Sussex image is being pulled apart in public, an older and far less discussed chapter of Meghan's past is beginning to resurface. While Hollywood looks the other way, quiet conversations among royal insiders suggest there's more history coming into view. A well-connected figure from aristocratic circles has reportedly shared never-before-seen material, images, and details that could seriously reshape how people understand Meghan's life before she entered royal headlines. If the Vanity Fair exposé felt shocking, what's emerging now may leave an even stronger impression. It touches on a period Meghan preferred to keep private, one that challenges the carefully managed story many believed. This next reveal, according to those watching closely, could change how the entire narrative is viewed. So don't look away just yet. This royal storm isn't finished. You're watching Star Spotlight, where the truth shines brighter than whispers. Press play and see what's being discussed, because the final act is still unfolding.